Welcome back to Red Band of Destiny, here for another episode of Show of the Year. We're, of course, still in 2017, covering American Vandal, Season 1. Today's episode is Nailed. Pretty obvious why. There is a key focus in the end of the episode dealing with a nail, which turns out to be the real cause of what was claimed to be slashed tires. But we'll get to that later. So this episode kind of starts dealing with the voicemail from the last thing. They don't get very far. They call Jansen, they call Jansen's daughter, leave some voicemails, and nothing really happens with that, and that kind of peters off pretty quick. We do get to meet Dylan's brother in this episode, and I kind of like him. You can tell he's a troublemaker and he's a bit of a bully, but he's smarter than Dylan. Like, he doesn't seem like an idiot like Dylan does. But the plot there is that Shapiro also hated Dylan's brother, who I forgot the name of, and I couldn't find it, so whatever. But I think that's an interesting thing. It's kind of like he's already put a bad taste in Shapiro's mouth before Dylan even got there, and then Dylan was Dylan, so he's just kind of doomed, basically. And then they cover an interesting little factoid. Apparently, after the vandalism, the vice principal canceled off-campus lunch. Apparently, this high school, seniors are allowed to go out of school to get lunch. Did not have that in my high school. Very disappointing. But then there's this whole conspiracy. They're definitely using a bit of a good cop, bad cop thing. The vice president, is that right? Vice principal, canceled it. And then Shapiro comes in and looks like the good guy, saying, if someone comes forward, then maybe I can talk to the vice principal and we can get this sorted out. Reality is, Shapiro came up with the idea in the first place. And this is where you really start to see Shapiro being manipulative. And it's really good television. Let's put it that way. And the other side to that is Alex Tromboli then became the savior of off-campus lunch because he came forward and he knew who it was. Coincidence? And there's also some nice little bits of him in interviews being a little shifty. And it's like you can kind of tell there's something going on there. And it's very subtle. I'm not sure I would have noticed it the first time, but I've watched this show like 3 or 4 times, so I'm starting to see it. But when Peter, this is before the tire, he kind of accuses her of being behind the off-campus lunch thing. They have a student comes forward and they do the whole, witness blurry face thing. And she totally shuts Peter down. Basically kicks him out of her classroom, and then, they don't leave on good terms there. And then they go and they talk to the mechanic who fixed all the cars. And he's like, that tire wasn't slashed. That was a nail. And Shapiro very clearly in the hearing said the tires were slashed, even though she knew that wasn't the case. So that is a big piece of evidence. But then it gets really good because they go and try and confront Shapiro. I mean, first in her classroom, he comes to the door. And he's like, Mr. Shapiro, can I please talk to you? And she literally comes up, closes the door, completely ignores him, and closes the door in his face. It's. And then they go to the parking lot and they try to meet her by her car. And so she sees them, doubles back and goes get the security guard. And it's like, hey, you kids can't be here, and all that stuff. Then they leave it on the. They leave it on her under her wiper. So she comes up and she sees, what's that? And looks at it and goes, And then they're filming her from across the parking lot. And she looks up, she looks dead at the camera, and she sees him like, oh shit. And it's like, it's a really good ending. And the last line of the episode is, I'm so going to fail Spanish. From, what's his assistant's name? Oh, Sam Eklund. Sam is in her class, and he's like, I'm so going to fail Spanish. It's very funny. But yeah, another excellent cliffhanger from American Vandal. And it's crazy how excited I am about this, being how many times I've seen it. It's just, this show is so good. I put this show above Game of Thrones, I swear. And I don't think it was like a massive hit, which kind of surprised me. I don't know if some people couldn't get past the premise, but I love it. I think it got canceled, unfortunately. Anyway, we'll be back next week for something else. That was only 6 minutes. Wow.